Welcome to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Walston. And in this space, we navigate life together. We ask the hard questions like, what is the truth you haven't told? But most importantly, we grow together. And sometimes that leads to a change of heart. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Change of Heart podcast. I am your host, Angel. Welcome and welcome back to everyone. I hope that you all are having a great start to your week so far. I know that we missed last week. My mom ended up being in the hospital, and so that was unexpected. So we skipped last week, but we are back for another episode. And before we get into today's topic, today we're going to do our question of the day. And I've been thinking about this, y'all. So I think I'm going to start doing the question of the day where it is options for the response because I don't want to act like it's so many responses that I get, but I don't be keeping up with the responses as they come in on Instagram. So I think it's just easier for me to have for right now just one question where you can choose your options versus having to go and post everybody's responses. So if you notice that change, that is what's going on here. I'm trying to make things easy for me. So today's question is, if you could have one of these things forever, expense don't matter. Don't even have to worry about it. You get to pick one of these and they will handle everything necessary in this particular area. Which one are you choosing? So would you want to have a personal maid? So that means they consistently take care of the home. House is clean every day, okay? Would you want to have a personal chef? They provide every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, all of it. A personal shopper. So instead of you having to go buy your stuff, you tell them what you want, they go and pick it up. And this isn't one of those things like, you do the online grocery shopping and you get to the store and they have substituted what you wanted for something else. No. You get what you want and you get the best quality of it. So this can be for groceries, this can be for clothes, shoes, electronics, whatever. So you ain't got to do it. They take care of it. They do it for you. And then the last one is a personal trainer. So your body is top shape because you have this personal trainer who is like invested in you and teaching you all the proper ways to do all the proper things. So which one are y'all going to go with? My choice, hands down, is going to be a personal chef because, listen, we working on this body, y'all. But the truth of the matter is I hate working out. And I feel like if I had a personal trainer, it would be helpful. I also would just complain the whole time for the most part. And don't nobody want to deal with that. But with losing weight and toning and all of that, a huge part of it is about what you eat. So if I could have somebody who just like prepped all my meals for me or just cooked on the spot healthy food, I would be in there like swimwear because everything that I eat is not always like bad food per se. But I don't always go for the healthiest option when I need something quick and I haven't prepped. So that's where I fall short. So that's what my answer is. Let me know which one y'all are choosing. You can answer this on my Instagram in my stories at Angel C. Walston, or you can leave your answer in the comment section on my YouTube channel. All right. So let's jump into today's topic. Today we are talking about, are you making room for the things that are for you, for the things that you desire, the things that you've been believing for, the things that you've been praying and preparing for? Are you actually making room for it? And when I say making room, I'm not necessarily speaking solely from making room in a physical or tangible sense, but also are you making room in an internal sense? Are you making room in your heart, in your mind, in your spirit? Like, is there space for the things that you desire, the things that are coming your way, the things that you've been believing for, or have you allowed clutter to set in to prolong that process or to keep you from actually accepting and receiving the things that are for you? So let's go ahead and deep dive. So I want to give some context to what inspired today's topic. I was watching an episode of season 3 of a show on Netflix called Indian Matchmaker. And let me say this. So that is not a show that just in like scrolling through Instagram that I would have probably just watched on my own. But I follow Sign Blake on Instagram, and she had posted in season 1 about this show and just saying like how good it was and how she was like rooting for this one girl to like find love because she was so sweet. And I was like, okay, I want to watch this because Blake ain't never steered me wrong. All her recommendations be on point. So I started watching in season 1, and it actually is a cute show. Long story short, it's exactly what it says it is. Indian matchmaking. It is a woman, they call her auntie, who is a matchmaker. And everyone who is a part of the show is an Indian. And they are going to auntie to find love and for her to set them up pretty much as a matchmaker. So in season 3, FYI, spoiler alert, I can't remember the girl's name. I think it was Priya. But in season 3, it was this girl who she was all like ready to like find love. She wanted to date. She had previously been divorced for I think 2 or 3 years. And so she's ready to jump back into the dating scene. And so she goes to Auntie to help her with matchmaking. So she gives her like this criteria of all the things that she wants. It's pretty much like your wish list for a man. And there are men and women on there as well. So it's not just like a women matchmaking, like it's for both. So anyways, so she gives her this laundry list of like things that she wants in a man. And she goes out on, I think, 1 or 2 dates, and, they weren't really feeling each other, which was cool. But then she sets her up with this guy who is pretty much everything that she wants on this list that she has given her, like even down to a man bun. And she goes out with this guy. She really likes him. Like you can tell, like the sparks are there. They really like each other. They have good chemistry. It's like, okay, I see y'all. And it's funny when you're watching the show because you can see like just as they're going on their first dates and things, you can see very early on whether or not there's going to be a second date. Like if this is going to work, do they actually like the person? And so in their first date, you could tell like, oh, they're really hitting it off. Like they look good together. Like this seems like this could be an actual match. So they go on, I think, a few more dates. And then why shawty girl try to almost ghost this man because she felt like he was always reaching out to her, trying to like make plans to see her. He was always like texting her, calling her. I would like to call that making an effort, taking the initiative. And that for her was like, oh, I think he's moving too fast. Like he wasn't trying to marry her. He literally just wanted to spend time with her. And let me say this, it was not even on some stalkerish stuff. It was not some overbearing stuff. He genuinely was just like reaching out to her because he liked her. And that was the other thing. He expressed that he liked her. He told her like, I'm interested in you. I like you. I want to see you. Like big energy, right? And so she then like low-key starts to ghost this man because she feels like he's doing too much, I guess. And so they'll do like FaceTimes with Auntie to see like how things are going in, pretty much like a check-in. So she tells her like, like, oh, I think I want to like meet someone else because XYZ, like what I just said, she felt like he's doing too much. He's all this other stuff. She feels like he's moving too fast. And Auntie was like, we're not going to get somebody else to do it. Like, you're running from this pretty much. It's like, I don't see what the problem is. You like him. He likes you. He's giving you effort. Like he's making an attempt to actually like show up and be present and like let you know that he's interested in you. He's not playing games with you. This is what you want. So why are you running from it? So she pretty much made her like, I'm not matching you up with another man. You need to go back to this man. You need to tell him how you're feeling and talk to him. And so they did have a meetup, long story short, and she expressed whatever. And they were fine. And they have like this, or it at least appears on the show, they have like a really cute little relationship. So I bring all of that up to say, it made me think about how a lot of times when we are in spaces when we want something, especially something that we want really bad, we don't realize how we can end up self-sabotaging even though it's something that we want. So a lot of times we get in these spaces where it's like, oh, it feels too good to be true, or you get into a space where you want something, but when it's happening, you start questioning it. You start feeling like, this is what I want, but I feel like he's moving too fast. And it's not even just solely for relationships. Like sometimes just in general in life, when we get the job that we want, when things just start happening to work out in our favor, we allow fear to make us try to run from it instead of embracing it. And so I wanted to talk about that today because I feel like a lot of times there are a lot of women who struggle with this because we have this idea in our head of how things are supposed to be. We have this idea of it's going to look like this, it's going to feel like this, it's going to be like this. And we can also just allow fear, we can allow the unknown, we can allow all of these outside factors to put us in a position that we don't really make room for the things that we actually desire, the things that are actually happening for us. And we start to talk ourselves out of it instead of just receiving it. And I think that sometimes we don't realize that we can be visionaries. We can be people who are always like hopeful. We can be people who are very much so in a space where you are wanting and acknowledging things that you want, but when it starts to happen, you're like, oh, whoa, 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 wait a minute, bump the brakes. And you try to stop something or stop the good things that are happening in your life because you have a fear of being disappointed. You have a fear of being let down if it doesn't go exactly in the way that you want it to. And as a result of that, we end up running instead of making room and actually putting ourselves in a position to be open and willing to receive the things that we want, right? The receive the things that we want is the huge part because we can talk about the things we want. We can talk about our desires. We can do vision boards. We can do all of these different things. But a lot of times it's a lot easier to just talk about it. But how do you respond when it starts happening? Like, are you excited about it? Are you happy about it? Are you making room for it? Or are you trying to talk yourself out of the good things that are meant for you, the good things that are happening in this season that are coming your way, especially when you're not necessarily used to experiencing the good? It can be very easy to talk yourself out of those things. So I want to talk to you today about some ways that you can make room, or even just to think about some areas that you may not be making room so that you can actually prepare yourself and receive all the things that God has for you, and also all the things that you've been preparing for, that you've been working towards. So, as I mentioned earlier, when we talk about making room and making space for the things that you desire, the things that are coming from you, just positioning yourself to receive is not solely just from a space of let me declutter my house or let me declutter my room, let me get my folders and like get things in order. That's necessary. But it's also about doing the internal work. And I think a lot of times as we call ourselves preparing, we can do a lot of things from an outward stance and completely forget about the internal things that we need to work on. And so as you are thinking about how can I make space, how can I make room, how am I preparing myself for the things that I'm believing for, the things that I want, or even the things that are already here, one of the things that we have to consider is our healing journey, that internal journey that we go on as we are evolving, as we are growing, as we are learning, especially as we are walking into new spaces. For a lot of you, this may be a year of transition and transitioning into things that you ain't never did before, things that you've never tried before, things that you've never attempted before, different roles that you are walking into, different things that are just coming your way. And I don't want you to miss it or to reject it even because you aren't prepared or because you don't know what to do with it, even when it's something that you've been praying for, even when it's something that you've been longing for. It's a difference when it's like, I want this and it's not here, versus when it is here right in front of you and you feel like, oh, I wasn't ready. Like I know I said I wanted this, but I don't know what to do with it now that I have it. I don't want you to be like that. I want you to be in a space where you are able and willing to receive what is actually for you. And so as we talk about going on this healing journey, this can look different for everybody. But one of the things very well may be your spiritual journey and growing in your relationship with God, developing a prayer life, developing fasting, developing a morning routine, a devotion routine, whatever that may be like for you, but really just restarting, jump starting your relationship with God in a way that is really allowing you to be poured into, getting connected with community, getting connected with a local church, just different things that can help to support you in that journey. Another thing may be therapy. And let me also clarify this before I go forward. It doesn't have to be a this or that. All of these things I'm getting ready to talk about very well can be this and that. So just consider that I'm not saying these things like it's one or the other. It very well can be a combination of any of these things. It's really just about what you need in this season. So as I was saying, it very well may be therapy that you need as well that helps you to be able to let go of some things that you don't even realize that you have been holding on to. I think one of the biggest things that can hinder us from being in a position to receive the things that we want or to receive the things that are happening is that we can put ourselves in a position where we are so afraid to let go of what was that we don't allow room for what can be to come in. And we end up stalling, or we end up putting ourselves in a position where we're staying in a season that we really have outgrown, or that God is actually trying to take us out of so that we can grow in a new way, because we're so attached to what was. And even when what was wasn't good for us, if it was dysfunctional, if it wasn't healthy, it's still familiar, and familiar feels safe. Even if it's not. That's the crazy thing. Familiar feels safe, even if it may have been detrimental to you, even if it may have slowed you down, even if it may have kept you stagnant, even if it may have kept you stuck, it's still familiar. So that can sometimes feel safe, or safer even, versus being in a space where you are having to try something new or embark on a new aspect of your journey that you ain't never did before, and that you don't have a GPS monitor for, that you don't have the instructions or a rule book. You literally are having to figure it out as you go. And so therapy can be helpful for that. And listen, y'all, I know from experience, it's not always easy to find a good therapist. And sometimes it really is just a hit or miss as far as going to someone, seeing if it works, if it doesn't, moving on to somebody else. I know it can be really challenging to find a therapist that you have good interactions with, you have good chemistry with. It's really important for it to be productive and beneficial. So don't get discouraged if you can't find someone the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Just keep looking until you're able to find someone that you feel like you have that connection with, because it really is beneficial for you to have a third party essentially who knows nothing about you until they're like getting to learn you, and who can help you to process some of the things that you need to leave in the past, help you to let go of some of those things that are keeping you from receiving what is for you, and who can also just help you to work on any type of things that you may not even realize are blocks to you accepting and receiving and making room and space for the things that are actually for you. Another thing that can be helpful is also just taking care of yourself. So exercising, eating right. I remember reading a post by Nicole Walters. I'm not exactly sure what her title exactly is. I know I want to say she's a business coach. I feel like there's more to it. Nonetheless, she's a multimillionaire, and she pretty much helps people with their businesses. Like I said, it's more to it, but off the top of my head, that's what I know her for. And I remember she had posted, this was a while ago, about her weight loss journey. And she was showing like her before and after picture. And she was sharing that she was having issues with like high blood pressure, some other health issues. And then she was also sharing that she would get these speaking engagements for different like business conferences and things. And she would realize that even with all of her preparation, like knowing what she was going to talk about, being very much so prepared to get the job done, she would find herself getting up there and being out of breath, being tired because of her weight, and just because of her not overall like eating better, taking care of herself. And so she's had like a significant weight loss journey. And I just thought that was very interesting, because a lot of times we don't realize the role that simply just taking care of our health, how much that plays into us making room and making space for the things that we want. And even though it's not like, listen, let me say this, we are all about body positivity over here, okay? Yes, we are, because I told y'all I've been gaining weight. And I've actually been maintaining for the last couple of months, but your girl been gaining weight. And I do think it's important to not beat yourself up when it comes to your body, because listen, your body is just one of those things. We go through all kinds of changes, and especially people who have had children, it's like your body goes through all of these different changes, and it can be really challenging at times just with like life and whatnot to be able to eat right and to work out. It really is something that you have to prioritize. But for some of you, it really is a necessity in this season, because whatever your next is, wherever God is trying to take you to, not saying this to be funny at all, like you can't be out of breath, sis. Like he really is trying to position you in a way that you are not just the best version of you, but you're also the healthiest version of you. And you may not even realize, like, as you start to take better care of yourself, how you feel better about yourself and how you show up better and how you're able to feel more confident. I know for myself that I have been in a space here lately that I haven't felt as confident, like taking pictures and whatnot, because even though the weight gain has not been significant to the point of it's like, ooh, girl, but it's noticeable. And I know that people can unintentionally and sometimes intentionally be jerks and comment on your weight. And when you're in a space where you're still working through that, that can be really hurtful. And so I found myself just kind of like being in a space where it's like, I don't really feel like taking pictures. I don't feel like being on camera. And also, let me say that ain't the reason why I have not been posting actual videos for the YouTube podcast. It's another reason for that we're not going to talk about right now, but that's neither here nor there. But it has more so to do about when I record the podcast versus what's going on. But it really is just kind of like being in a space where it's like I have felt, even just like in wearing clothes and things, felt more so like I have to be covered, and just like all different kind of mindsets having to learn with that. So I bring all of that up to say we took a little tangent, a little detour there, but it can be challenging for you to walk into certain spaces, to feel confident in certain spaces when you don't feel confident about the way that you look, or you don't feel confident in general because you're running out of breath, because you feel sluggish, whatever it might be. I believe for some of you that there are literally spaces that you are getting ready to walk into. There are places that God is positioning you for, that he really does need you to take care of you. And in general, like we want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. But I do believe that there are specific people that you have this push to work out. You have this push to eat right. And it's not just about like, oh, I want to be fit and trim and slim and all of that. It really is like you want to be able to position yourself once again to make room and to be ready and prepared for whatever this next may be like, even when you don't know what it is. So I want to challenge you that when you feel that urging or that push for something, realize that even if you don't know what the reason is right now, even when you can't see or make sense of like, oh, why I got to do this right now? Like, this isn't even before me. You have no idea what you're being set up for. So even when it may feel like this is pointless, I don't really need to do this right now. I don't know why I'm even focused on this right now. Ain't no prospects in sight. Ain't nothing coming together. Ain't nothing working out. You don't know what you're being prepared for 6 months from now, a year from now, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. And so you're just positioning yourself. You're preparing yourself. I want us to get back to a place of really allowing our faith to be stirred and really allowing ourselves to believe again, because some of us have allowed disappointment and the things that we have experienced, or the lack thereof, to be honest, to make us feel like, well, it's never going to happen. I see it happening for everybody else. It's not going to happen for me. And so we start to talk ourselves out of things that we actually desire, that we actually want. And I really want to encourage you and challenge you to start believing again. Prepare for things that it doesn't even seem like it's going to happen this year, but start preparing for it. Start positioning yourself for it. Start getting your mind right for it. And not just for the things or for a person. Do it for you. Like, do it for you. Allow that to reignite something on the inside of you. Another thing in regards to making room and making space for the things that are for you, the things that you desire, is, y'all, you have to let go of and break down these mindsets that are telling you you're not deserving of. It's never going to happen for you. You need to stop believing. It's not for you. You're not qualified. You're not good enough. To the at. Like, we got to stop that. I have a whole episode that I'll link in the description notes and also on my YouTube channel that I talked about imposter syndrome. And a lot of us are still carrying around imposter syndrome, myself included at times. And that is that feeling that you don't belong, that you're not qualified, that the spaces that you are in or that you're walking into, that people are going to realize that you're a fraud. And it's like, stop that right now. You have to be careful about what you speak over yourself and how you think about yourself. What we don't say can be just as detrimental as the things that we do say about ourselves. But the things that you say out loud, you really got to be careful about that, because you end up speaking life to negative traits and negative aspects about yourself that you then internalize and start to believe the hype that is a lie. So many of us have believed a lie about ourselves, and we have carried that as our identity for so long because we feel like this is how I've always been. This is what people have said about me. I'm always the person who plays the background, or I'm always the person who doesn't do this. Good things don't happen to me. I never win the giveaways. I never, win this. I'm never the one who's chosen for this. We have to be really careful about the things that we speak over ourselves, and we have to be really careful about the things that we internalize that don't come out of our mouth, but we definitely allow it to just sit in our thoughts, and we replay those thoughts over and over and over again. There are so many different mindsets that we have to let go of and that we have to release, because we have allowed ourselves to play small, and we have allowed ourselves to remain in a space that we are truly called out of. A lot of us are walking in this defeated identity that you were called out of, but you remained in that place because of your mindset. And we don't even realize that, because we feel like, well, this just keeps happening to me, or it's this is always happening. It's always like this. It's always like that. And it's like, because you're carrying around that mindset, you continuously speak to a negative aspect of your life, or you continuously speak on how things never work out, how you're never good enough, how it's never you that gets picked. It's always somebody else. And you essentially are creating this mindset that is telling you you're never good enough. It never works out for you. You're never the one. You're always the one who's forgotten. You're always the one who's overlooked. And you start to carry that around as this mantle that it's like, for what? For what and for why? Like, what is the reason? You really, really have to be intentional about the things that you think. And I think it's harder to be mindful and to retrain your thinking than it is to retrain your mouth, even though, listen, it can be challenging as well with the mouth, because we be out here reckless sometimes, how we talk about ourselves. But it's more important on how you train your thoughts, because you have an inner dialogue that you don't always necessarily share with other people. And even though you may not be saying something out loud, that inner dialogue is definitely something that you believe. And it's definitely something that you have within you that you are feeding to your thoughts, that you're feeding to your mind. And in order for us to make room and make space for the things that we desire, the things that are for us, we have to be willing to challenge those thoughts. We have to be willing, when we have those thoughts that rise up that say, you're not good enough. Who said that? And why? Why can't I be good enough? I might be new at this. I might not know what I'm doing, but I can learn. I can adjust. I'm the queen of pivoting. Like, you have to be able to retrain those thoughts. And you got to do it quickly too. Because a lot of times when we allow a seed to be planted, we are more likely, especially one that is negative, we are more likely to water a negative seed than we are to uproot it. And the funny thing is, we are more likely to uproot a positive seed than we are to water that one. We gotta reverse that. And we have to get back to a space of allowing ourselves to receive the good. We have to get to a space where we allow ourselves to believe for the good, and to believe that good things happen to me, that I'm deserving of good things. My past has not disqualified me. My current has not disqualified me. I'm not behind. I'm not overlooked. I'm not missing out. I am deserving of this. I am worthy of this. I can do this thing. I'm not going to mess it up. I'm going to figure it out even if I don't know how to do it. We got to learn how to reverse how we look at ourselves, how we think about ourselves, and how we speak to ourselves, because we tend to make more room and make more space for negative mindsets and negative thoughts about ourselves, more so than we do for the positive. And when we put ourselves in that position, it's so much easier to talk yourself out of the things that you actually want. And we end up being just like that girl on Indian Matchmaker, where we're over here having something good and positive coming into our life that we really wanted, that we've really been desiring. And we start to say, oh no, it's too much. And it's like, no, you're scared. And it's okay that you're scared. But also maybe you feel like you don't deserve this kind of love, or you're not ready for this kind of whatever, because you've never experienced it like this before. And so it feels like this isn't right. This can't be it. And it's like, but what if it is? And you're running from it. What if this is the job that you're supposed to take, but it seems scary? And so it's like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. You learn. That's what training is for. And we have to be able to accept that a part of making room and making space is being open to learning something new, learning how to do things differently. A lot of us have carried different mindsets and we have carried different ways of thinking because this is how it's always been. This is how I've always done it. And I have to challenge you and ask you, okay, this is how you've always done it, but has it been beneficial to you? Has how you've always done things, the way you've thought, the way that you've talked, the way that you talk to people, the way that you engage with people, the way that you engage in relationships, the way that you engage in friendships, this is how you've always done it. Have you had success doing it this way? And I'm reluctant to say, have you had success in doing this way? Because success is subjective. So you can feel like you have been successful because you didn't get hurt in the process. As a result of you not getting hurt, you also have completely isolated yourself. And you have put yourself in a position that you're not able to receive or make room for the things and or people who actually need to be in your life, because you have completely isolated yourself as a means of self-preservation and as a means of protecting yourself. So I want to change that from asking, have you been successful? Because like I said, to you, you may feel like you've been successful because you've protected yourself. But in protecting yourself, you've also let the good things remain at an arm's length as well that you need to allow in. So even though this is how things have always gone and this is how things have always been done, have you really been able to receive what you want and experience it to the fulfillment that you desire based off of how you've always done things? And if the answer is no, guess what? That's okay. You're not bad. You're not wrong. It's okay. It's an opportunity to adjust. It's an opportunity to say like, hey, you know what? I've been doing this for a long time. And although it has served me well in certain ways, it's served me well in the sense of it's protected my heart. It's protected me from being disappointed. It's protected me from being let down. I also haven't been able to really experience the fullness or the fulfillment in certain areas of my life because I'm always in protection mode. I'm always in guard mode. And I want to be able to let that down to actually experience the fulfillment and the fullness, and to make space and to make room for the things that I truly desire because I really want this, or I really do feel like what is coming for me, like I don't want to miss it this time. I don't want to let that go. It's okay to be vulnerable enough to acknowledge that. All right, last thing we're going to talk about, because I went a little bit on a tangent, took a little detour, is also just finding your people. I think it's really important to find people who you can be honest with, people who you can be vulnerable with, because a lot of times the way that we view ourselves, I've said this so many times before on this podcast, but the way that we view ourselves, 9.99999 out of 10 times, people don't view us in the way that we view ourselves in a negative sense for the most part. And I always think it's really important to have your people, to have your village, to have your community that you can talk to and share the things that you are feeling, the ways that you are thinking about yourself it's so important to have those conversations with people who can really just speak life back into you and who can really just help you to see you for who you are. Because a lot of times when you have conversations with people and you talk to them about like how you're feeling, they can speak life to you in a way that you may not be able to speak to yourself in that moment, because they're able to see things from a different lens based off of their relationship with you. So for example, I I have a lot of times where I feel like I'm failing. And a part of that comes with anxiety, to be honest. It just feels like, I'm not doing enough, or I feel like all of these different things that I have going on, I'm not showing up in the way that I should be or could be. Like all of these different thoughts will come into my mind. And I rarely share that with people. And I have a very small group of people that I share that with sometimes. And it's typically, if it gets to the point that I'm sharing that information, it's most of the time I'm at the verge of tears. Like, it's like I've tried to carry this all by myself for long enough. And it's like, I'm just at a point now where it's like, I'm crying. And it's like, why are you crying? It's like, because I feel like I'm failing. And it's like, girl, what? You need to have those people who you can share those moments with, because when I've had those moments and I've shared that, when they start asking questions and it's like, so what makes you feel like you're failing? And you start saying like, oh, well, this, because of that, they can give perspective to things that you may not see. Because a lot of times when we're focused on the negative, it's like we have blockers on that we can't see the good. We only see where we're lacking or where we're falling short. And you need someone who can see the full scope, who can help you to process through that. And sometimes that is through therapy. Sometimes it's friendship. Sometimes it's relationships. Sometimes it's your parents. But you need people who are able to see the full scope and who can help you to process it from a different view versus just your limited view of what you feel like is wrong. I also think it's really important, especially when you're in a season of growth and when you're in a season of transition, evolving. I think it's really important for you to connect with people who are also in the space that you're going or that you want to be. And this is not on some no new friends kind of thing. I don't like when people get into a new space and they leave people from their old space behind unnecessarily. Like there are some situations that is like, Sister Spandex can't come with you to where you're going. That is real. But there are also some situations that I've seen and have experienced myself, honestly, where people are transitioning, they become something, whatever it might be, and they feel like I only want to be connected to people who are where I'm going. And you can do both. You can connect with people that are where you're going and still have people who are where you are or where you've been. There are going to be circumstances, like I said earlier, where you do got to let go, you do have to release, and you'll have confirmation on that. That's not something that's like, should I not? Like, it'll be confirmed. This person ain't going to your next season. But don't be that person that God is elevating you or taking you to this, that, or the fourth, and you're like, oh, I only want to hang out with people who are X, Y, or Z. Like, don't do that. Don't be that person. But with that, I do think it's really important for you to connect with people that are where you are going or where you want to be, because it does also, again, helps to give you some, just a different perspective on things. And it's also great to glean from people who are in the position that you want to be or where you're going. So don't be afraid to reach out, to connect, to be intentional about building relationships with people, because you'll need that support and you'll need to be able to have conversations with people that are in the spaces that you want to be, and they can help you and show you how they made room, how they made space for where they are now, and help you to be able to just have a different vantage point with it. So that is all that I wanted to share. And like I said, I always say this is never an all-inclusive list. So don't walk away from this and like, check, do these things. All right. There's always different things. We are all different. We're all evolving in different ways. We are all in different seasons. We're all in different spaces in our journey. And it's never going to be a one size fit all, right? There are going to be things that may be beneficial for me in this season that you don't need right now, or you've already experienced that. You've already done that. So maybe it's not for you, and that's okay. I do want to, however, encourage you to take the time to just consider and think about for yourself, what is for you? What is it that you need in this season? And I want to encourage you to talk to someone else about it as well. Because like I said, when we just deal with things internally, when we just deal with it ourselves, we typically have a very small viewpoint, and we can put ourselves in a position that we miss a lot, specifically miss a lot of the positive, because we're so focused on, I got to do this, got to be this, got to do this, like all of that. So I do want to encourage you to, as you're processing it, process it with someone else. Speak with somebody else about it so that you can get some feedback as well, so that you're not just in a position where it's like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't know how I'm gonna make it work. I don't know, like I'm not ready for this, da da da. And you could talk to somebody else and be like, girl, I saw you in that position 5 years ago. Like, I knew that this was happening. I knew that this was coming. I'm really excited for you. I'm rooting for you. I'm supporting you. That is one of the things that I love most about us as women. Like, we get a lot of flack for being catty and petty and always talking about each other, all of that. But when you have like a solid group of women who cheer for you, who support you, who help you navigate this thing called life, it's such a beautiful experience. And it's so just fulfilling to have solid women in your life. I've always heard people talk about soulmates in the sense of like romantic relationships. And I genuinely believe that soulmates can also be your friendships. And there are people who are really attached to your journey, who are really necessary for your journey to help you to get to your next, to help you to be able to remove a lot of the stumbling blocks and to remove a lot of the mindsets, and who can really support you and encourage you and challenge you through your journey as you are figuring out this thing called life. So I really, really, really want to strongly encourage you to find your people. And I know that that can be challenging as well, but when you find them, you know it. It's a really sweet spot. And I just want to really just encourage you to connect with other women who are really intentional about just being solid women and helping you to be able to see your flawed thinking, but also able to help you to encourage you and walk with you through this thing called life. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope that it was helpful. Make sure that you share this episode with a friend. And until next time, don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic. Have an amazing week. Thank you so much for tuning into a Change of Heart podcast. I hope you were encouraged, and please take a moment to share with a girlfriend, and don't forget to download the episode. Lastly, I would love to connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram at Angel C. Walston and at A Change of Heart podcast. Have an amazing week, and don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic.